In 2.7, we're multiplying using partial products. This is going to continue building off of the distributive property and expanded form. You're going to see it starts to look like the traditional method. This is going to help the students get in the mode of using the traditional method. So what we're going to do, it all goes back to the distributive property. So when I look at 181 times 2, in my head, I'm thinking something like this. So 2, and I have my 100, my 80, and my 1. So instead of drawing this out, instead of doing expanded form, writing it out, that takes a lot of space, we're going to try and condense it just a little bit. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start with this section. So my hundreds times my 1. So that would be the same thing here. I'm thinking 2 times my 100. I'm going to forget about these two numbers. Think about my place value. My 1 is in the 100 spot. 2 times 100, thinking of it like that, is 200. So I'm going to write it here. The really important thing is I have to make sure I'm lining my numbers up correctly, and you'll see how that comes into play. Then I've done that, so I'm going to move on to my tens times my single digit. So 80 times 2. So I'm looking at just my 8. This is in the place value of the 10. So I'm thinking 80 times 2. Again, that comes back to here. 80 times 2 is 160. So I'm going to write 160 underneath. Then I'm on to my ones times my ones. So I'm looking at just my 1. It's in the place value of the ones. 2 times 1 is 2. Now I'm going to add them all up. So 0 plus 0 plus 2 is 2. 0 plus 6 is 6. 2 plus 1 is 3. If I did that over 200, 160, 362, I should get the same answer. Now we're going to start doing it with even bigger numbers. So for example, maybe we're going to do to the thousands. So let's try 5,893 times 5. So again, in my head, I'm thinking of this picture, or I'm thinking of expanded form. But again, those start to take up a lot of space. This is going to help us condense that and get in the mode of the traditional. So I'm going to do 5. I'm going to break it up over here. Students are not required to do this. I'm just showing this to remind you of what we're doing and why it works. So 5,893. You can see it starts getting a little clunky once we have all these numbers. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start with my thousands times my single digit. So 5,000 times 5. I know 5 times 5 is 25. Then I need to add on my zeros, so 0, 0, 0, 25,000. So I'm going to write 25,000 over here. Then I'm going to move on to my next place value. So I did this one, thinking not just 8 times 5, what's 800 times 5? Well, I know that 8 times 5 gets me that 40. Now I'm going to add on those 2 zeros. So 800 times 5 would be 4,000. This is where I need to make sure that I line up my numbers. If I put 4,000 here, that's more like saying 40,000. So that will mess up when we start adding. So I need to make sure that I put my 4,000 under the correct place. Now I'm going to go my next one, 90 times 5. So I know 9 times 5 is 45. I have to add on my 1 0, so 450. Finally, I'm going to do my ones times my ones. So 3 times 5 is 15. I'm going to put my 15 there. Now, I've done all that I can. So I'm going to add these up. 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 5. 0 plus 0 plus 5 plus 1 is 6. 0 plus 0 plus 4 is 4. 5 plus 4 is 9, and 2 plus nothing is 2. So my answer should be 29,465.